Welcome to the adjudicators, the debating teams, and members of the audience. We are here today to debate the motion. This House believes that governments should prescribe lists of books for compulsory student reading. On the proposition team, we have the Yellow House. The first speaker is Isha Pri Kaur, second speaker Joyce Leung, third speaker Gordon Lee. On the opposition team, we have the Blue House. The first speaker is Thomas Chan, second speaker Lily Lin, third speaker Jonathan Liu. Speaking times are set at 3 minutes, with a warning knock at 2.5 minutes, 2 warning knocks at 3 minutes, and 3 warning knocks at 3.5 minutes. Now I call on the first speaker of the proposition team to open the debate.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. I am the first speaker of the proposition. The motion for today's debate is government should provide prescribed lists for compulsory student reading. The proposition defines the motion as government should require by law a list of books which students in Hong Kong will select their reading from, as we believe that a well-constructed reading list that retains flexibility will bring all the good of literacy while avoiding the restriction of individuality. I, as the first speaker, will outline the main effects a prescribed list has on a student. My second speaker will be talking about the importance of a guided structure while considering the importance of flexibility in a prescribed list of books. My third speaker will sum up the debate and bring you into more depth on the benefits of selecting books from prescribed lists from the government. Literacy problems remain asymmetrical and they are heavily oriented to the poorest in our communities. The education ministries in many countries aim to make the students able to catch up to the international pace of living. Without the government providing a clear direction for education of its country, students cannot work towards that goal and to understand what might be beneficial to them. Ladies and gentlemen, the concept of compulsory reading has been around for a considerable amount of time. Not only would the concept expose students to the best resources available for the particular subject, but it will also encourage the habit of reading amongst them, thus increasing the rates of literacy of the region. By implementing the concept, students will hopefully be equipped with the literary skills in order to get them a job in the country. Ladies and gentlemen, compulsory reading lists do not exclude the originality of thought. The proposition suggests a flexible reading list that will still leave plenty of room for alternative interpretations of the material. Education that is structured around reading lists can and should still be designed in such a way that encourages exploration of alternative views. Taking the IB for an example, its reading list is compulsory in the sense that the material thought is entirely within the list, but flexibility is still present because the teacher, and in some cases the student, chooses what is taught and what is learned out of the list. What we suggest here is a similar system where the choice of reading is entirely free within the range of titles provided by the government. The construction of such a list will require the knowledge and experience of professional educators. In fact, educators have been choosing books for their students to read ever since books were invented or had. What the proposition is suggesting today is that the government uses its resources to efficiently organize these educators to bring about a unified system to maximize the potential benefits of literature. Taking this into consideration, we believe that a well-constructed reading list that retains flexibility will bring all the good of literacy while avoiding the restriction of individuality. Therefore, today's motion must stand.
3 minutes, 3 seconds. Three. Yes.
I now call on the first speaker of the opposition team to continue the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, I'm the opening speaker of the opposition team today, and we will be debating the moot. Government should prescribe books for compulsory student reading. My team strongly opposes the moot for many reasons. And to open my case, I will present to you how considering even upholding the moot is a demonstration of complete ignorance of basic human rights. My second speaker will then elaborate on how it would negatively affect student development with the aid of statistics. My third speaker will conclude by raising the point that students may abandon the act of reading literature if the government deems it as compulsory. To present my case, I'll first redefine the moot, which states that governments should prescribe books for compulsory student reading. Upon closer consideration of the moot, we can see that compulsory is defined as required, mandatory, and obligatory. What do these words represent? A complete and utter lack of choice. A lack of choice represents a violation of basic human rights, which is not only frowned upon by society, but it's a complete farce in terms of human ethics. Our team strongly believes that governments in this aspect have done its citizens wrong, and hence showing that even the slightest notion of the moot being fair is laughable. The motion itself clearly defies human rights. A government, a body which presides over an entire population of people, is able to set a list which forces students to read books that they have chosen. This is what the motion is proposing. What does this create? Human beings who think the same, do the same things, are effectively no better than brainwashed. Governments are not fully informed of each and every citizen's needs and requirements, and the notion of allowing someone or something that is completely unfamiliar with each and every citizen dictate the way these people think is worthy of ridicule. Voluntary work is always more productive than compulsory work. It's within human nature itself to believe that prefer voluntary work to compulsory work, no matter the situation. When one is doing something they choose to do, in comparison to being forced to do, the right of choice always leads to the most productivity. By even entertaining the notion that governments should prescribe books for compulsory student reading, the opposition has neglected the idea of basic human nature. Although my team does believe that with reading books carries with it educational capabilities and benefits, we do not support it in a compulsory capacity, as we believe it will backfire and create an opposite effect which discourages students from reading. And hence, we propose an alternative to the motion, a list compiled by the government that students are recommended to read. This alternative is vastly superior to the motion suggested above, as it respects basic human rights, while simultaneously maintaining the goal of educating students through reading. And this is why the moot must fall. Thank you.
Good afternoon, adjudicators and fellow debaters. I am the second speaker from the proposition. We strongly believe that a well-constructed reading list that retains its flexibility will bring all the good of literature while avoiding the restricting of individuality. Before I move on to my substantive points, let me first offer some points of rebuttal. The opposition team mentioned that individuals learn differently, and freedom of choice and human rights. But this point is irrelevant. The proposition's definition of a compulsory list does not exclude flexibility. Flexibility will be maintained because the list we propose includes a range of titles from which students and teachers choose their reading from. And I will further rebut the opposition's speech within my own. Education usually takes the form of teachers guiding students through the acquiring of knowledge and skill, because that is the easiest way to learn. As the Chinese saying goes, it is constricting to learn without thinking, but it is dangerous to learn without guidance. Even though individuality and freedom is important, structure is still very much necessary. Not all of us know how to interpret the works of writers like Leo Tolstoy or Wang Wei without guidance. A compulsory reading list will provide all students with the foundation needed to understand the great works of literature. The proposition will state again that we firmly believe in a well-constructed curriculum, which includes a list of books from which reading material is chosen from, in a way that promotes individual development and flexibility in a structured way. This is what the International Baccalaureate has become. The IB, an internationally recognized system famed for its new age thinking and innovation, has realized that a completely free-form syllabus does not work, and has since evolved its syllabus to allow teachers to choose from a wide range of finite resources to teach. Naturally, experienced professional educators will pick the prescribed list of books, and the list will be designed to meet certain standards. This means students and teachers need not worry about finding good learning material. This would standardize the syllabus every student goes through. This allows a student who is not aware of the different works of literature out there to be at par with those who do. Having students study works from the same list of books would encourage them to exchange point of views with other students. This would also mean that all teachers teaching the subject would be more familiar with the books in the list, hence increasing the quality of teaching in classes. This will ensure that all students are privy to the education, no matter what school they attend. Thus, students will have equal educational opportunities. The act of bringing together the professional educators to create such a system requires resources that the government easily has under its disposal. This is why the proposition believes that the government should take up the responsibility of leaving no child behind. And this should be done by using its resources to bring together professional educators to construct a flexible reading list. Hence, today my motion must stand.
I now call on the second speaker of the opposition team to continue the debate.
Ladies and gentlemen, we strongly oppose the moot today. We do recognize the benefits, but the negatives outweigh the benefits. And we would like to propose an alternative where the government will recommend a list of books for students to read instead. Ladies and gentlemen, before I continue on with my team's case, please allow me to offer a few points of rebuttal. The first speaker of the proposing team mentioned educational and literacy. Our offered alternative is equally, if not more, educational and effective. And as our first speaker has mentioned, we believe it will create an opposite effect. A compulsory list will create an opposite effect, which discourages students from reading books. A list of books which are for compulsory student reading will limit creativity. A list is limited in scope and content covered. How is that flexible? Our alternative is more superior, offers choice which allows room for creativity and flexibility. Reading a list of books is time-consuming. And ladies and gentlemen, please note that the moot reads the lists of books rather than simply a list of books. Time is a luxury good that cannot be bought with money. With more things added to the daily to-do list and seeing that the 24-hour day isn't going to get any longer, the pressure and the students build up. Students are still children, minor, who are not supposed to be bombarded with work, but are to simply enjoy the one and only childhood they'll ever get. The problem here all comes down to the word compulsory, as mentioned by our previous speaker, which further complicates life by making it inflexible. Hence, our alternative, where the government will recommend a list of books for reading, is more practical. Whenever we make a decision, we have to bear in mind the term opportunity cost, which is the second best alternative foregone. The opportunity cost of reading lists of books prescribed by the government for compulsory reading could be anything that comes into mind. However, is reading lists of books really the best choice under all circumstances? A book on surgical procedure might be more beneficial to a student wishing to study medicine in university. If we are not going for the best alternatives, we're really going against all the principles of decision making, which is extremely inefficient and unproductive. Again, the word compulsory offers no option and flexibility, and hence our alternative is far more superior. Ladies and gentlemen, students of the 21st century are already burdened with schoolwork and co-curriculum activities. They simply do not have the time and energy to read books prescribed by the government. Students on average are required to read at least 4 books per year per language as a part of their course. The proposition team has mentioned the IB curriculum, which requires at least 10 books for the literature course, language course, 2 or 3 other ones in their interested field of study as preparation for university. If they're required to read lists of books prescribed by the government for compulsory reading, when will they read for fun? When will they read for relaxation? When will they read to fulfill their interest? Reading is a recreational activity, not something to burden the students with, which is why, ladies and gentlemen, today's moot must fall. Thank you.
I now call on the third speaker of the opposition team to...
Ladies and gentlemen, I am the third speaker of the proposition. Before I move on to my substantive points, let me point out the blatant errors and omissions in the opposition's case. The opposition has chose to stick their heads in the metaphorical sand. What we propose allows for freedom within order. It does not inhibit wide learning or adaptability and ensures consistent quality of education. It is also what the second speaker proposed. We would like to thank the opposition for siding with our case. Further rebuttal will be in my substantive. We strongly believe that a well-constructed reading list that retains flexibility will bring all the good of literature while avoiding restrictions on individual development. It is not a suffocating pile of books that will be forced down the throat of unwilling students. What we propose is a flexible list, similar to those of the Ivy Baccalaureate, which allows students and teachers to choose from a range of materials. What we propose is a system that is adaptable to the needs of the student and the curriculum. This my first speaker emphasized. My second speaker then emphasized the necessity of structure, even when considering the importance of individuality. He showed us how a list, constructed by professional educators, reduces the time the school or students needs to find good learning material. This list will also provide some form of commonality, and this will facilitate the exchange of ideas between students. This will also expose all students to literature to some degree and help make education equitable. Ladies and gentlemen, the positive effects of literature cannot be argued against. It is one of the biggest factors that raised humanity into civilization. What the proposition proposes, a flexible compulsory reading list, is the best way to bring literature to all of Hong Kong. People tend to avoid what does not seem appealing at first, such as reading. Accomplished writer Oscar Wilde's earliest diary entry spoke of his dislike of enforced reading in class. Lewis Carroll expressed similar distaste towards his first contact with literature. That is not to say the giants of language maintain their disgust. T.S. Eliot was inspired to write poetry at the age of 14 by required reading work. Imagine how much these people contributed to culture and humanity. I dare say the world would be a different place if these men had not read what they have read. Perhaps there is a future Stephen King or a budding Ray Bradbury amongst us, waiting to be changed by the first contact with literature. But perhaps not. But what cannot be denied, what cannot be ignored, is the usefulness and the benefits of a reading list, one constructed by professional educators, under a government that will bring the goodness of literature to everyone while avoiding restrictions on individuality and freedom of learning. And therefore, ladies and gentlemen, it is the proposition's firm belief that today's motion must stand. Thank you.
And now call on the third speaker of the opposition team to end up.
Ladies and gentlemen, before I go on to my points, I must first offer a few points of rebuttal to the proposition team today. First of all, I would like to thank them for offering a wrong definition of the moot today. I must bring to your attention that the moot reads, government should prescribe books for compulsory student reading, but the proposition team today has offered a definition that is only the Hong Kong government that is prescribing the list, and I must thank them for making this mistake. I would also rebut that the moot today does discourage creativity, unlike what they said. An alternative is superior to theirs. Continuing on, there are also numerous well-documented examples of governments using education to manipulate future generations. The Communist government of China, to North Korea, and then to Afghanistan, and so on. These are all governments who have had a history of perpetuating false information of foreign nations through the use of propaganda. By supporting today's motion, we are supporting the spreading of propaganda and the manipulation of citizens, and I'm sure that this is what we do not want. Also, to reiterate my opening speaker's point, it is within human nature for us to work most efficiently when we enjoy our tasks and carry them out voluntarily. Having a list of compulsory books to read would only spark a backlash and a social outroar, instantly resulting in social instability all over the globe. Many students will start to take a stand against the reading of books, which can only be detrimental to their education. Nations who do not have compulsory reading lists are encouraging extracurricular reading, ladies and gentlemen. But by removing that crucial element of freedom, students lose a genuine sense of enjoyment, and they gain from reading, and thus they will drop reading entirely, ladies and gentlemen. I'm sure this is something that nobody in this room wants, but evidently this is what the proposition team today wants. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have a proposition team which has failed to do a number of things today. They have failed to engage with our redefinition of the moot. They have failed to offer a correct definition of the moot as well. They have demonstrated a lack of cohesiveness today, and they simply have not attempted to engage with our arguments because they simply accept the fact that our points are superior to theirs. On the other hand, we also have a side opposition that has offered numerous reasons why this moot must stand with the aid of facts and statistics. We told you that the motion supports a violation of basic human rights. We told you that it would exert far too much pressure on school children, and we told you that it would cause a backlash and that students would stop reading. We have also offered an alternative, which is by far superior to the motion today, as it includes all of the benefits mentioned by side proposition today, while also negating any harmful effects that will most certainly be caused by supporting today's motion. Ladies and gentlemen, why support a ridiculous and ludicrous motion when you have a vastly superior alternative provided by side opposition today? The choice is clear and simple. The motion today must fall.
Thank you, debaters. We will now await the decision of the